Over the last couple of weeks, we've seen altcoins have a little bit of a run, and now with Bitcoin having a pullback, it could present some opportunities for us to invest in some altcoins that we want for the long term. Now, on today's video, I'm going to show you my own personal investing strategy when it comes to altcoins, because there's a few conditions that altcoins need to meet that are well and truly beyond just the chart. And I'm going to explain to you what those conditions are and why they're so important. Now, if you have limited capital and you are really banking on an alt season to build some sort of wealth, this strategy is really going to help you because it's going to show you when the real best time is to invest in each particular altcoin that you want. The right time is not going to be the same right time for every single altcoin. You have to analyze them all individually for what they are. So I'm going to show you exactly how I do that using 6 altcoins as examples. I'm going to show you if I was willing to buy those altcoins, where I would personally be looking to make those purchases. So if you are new here, welcome. If you are returning, welcome back. Be sure to smash that like button nice and early because it really does help me get my videos around the internet, and we will get right into this video. Now, believe it or not, I'm actually going to kick things off with a very well-known altcoin, Dogecoin. Now, you probably know Dogecoin as the funny little meme coin with the dog icon, but it's been doing more than making people laugh. In the 2021 cycle, its value actually really skyrocketed and it made it into the top 10, which is pretty impressive for a dog-themed meme coin. And of course, all of this was due to its social media buzz and Elon Musk. Now, most of the altcoins that do really well in one cycle don't tend to do well in the following cycle. We often never hear of them again after one cycle. But Doge has been getting some attention lately. You know, we've got Musk in the news again with the whole election heating up, and he's doing campaigns for that. You've probably heard of the idea floating around that if Trump wins, Musk might run a government efficiency team, which he has labeled Doge, being the Department of Government Efficiency. And that, of course, has brought some attention to Dogecoin, which, of course, then also shows the power of community, memes, and, of course, Musk himself. So let's have a look at the Dogecoin chart first. Now, this is the current Doge chart. This is Doge USDT. And we can see here that this was the pump we had at the beginning of this year around March. And then we did basically 100% retracement of that as we came back to rebalance this entire area. And we're looking like the market structure might be changing now. But before any of this matters, there's 2 things that you should look at first before you consider buying any altcoin. And that is the dominances. So some dominances that you need to take note of is Bitcoin dominance, the USDT dominance, which is my middle chart, and then finally the others dominance, which takes into account the total market cap, excluding the top 10 cryptocurrencies. Now, the reason you look at this first is because it basically tells you the interest of investors. Whichever one of these charts is bullish is where people are putting their money. And you want to know that because that's how you're going to maximize your gain. So if we take a look at Bitcoin dominance, for example, we can see that it's been on an uptrend for quite some time. And on the daily chart, it has held the 200 EMA really, really well. And currently, it's still even above the 50 EMA and it's creating higher highs and higher lows. Now, a lot of people are expecting that Bitcoin dominance will continue to rise into around the 60% area, and we won't really get a rejection until that level. Now, because the Bitcoin dominance is continuing to rise and we're heading towards that 60%, what we're seeing with the altcoins that were bullish over the last couple of weeks was essentially early investors trying to front run this. Now, that's fine if you have a lot of capital and you can afford to continue offloading your capital if the dominance continues to rise. However, if you are short of funds, you really should be waiting for this rejection wherever it ends up coming before you start to offload capital, because the longer that Bitcoin dominance stays bullish, it's telling you your money is better off in Bitcoin. Once you start to see a little bit of a rejection, that doesn't automatically mean that your money should go into altcoins because everybody else is. It could actually be going into stable coins. If there is some really bad economic news that is going to cause people to be risk off, they might sell out of Bitcoin, which will lower the dominance, but they might actually sell into USDT, meaning your altcoins aren't going to fly then either. So the next chart that you need to analyze is the USDT dominance. And so far, so good. On the daily time frame, we had this triangle. We broke to the downside. This looks like a bit of a retracement, and we may continue down from there as well, as this trend line looks to be on the verge of breaking now. So if it does actually continue to break down, then no worries. People are not shifting into stables just yet. And that means that the dominance charts you need to pay attention to is Bitcoin dominance, and finally the others. Now, the others chart is really interesting to me and something I'm keeping an eye on right now, because we can see here that we've been in a downtrend since March of this year, and now it looks like the market structure on this is attempting a change. If we zoom into this area, you'll see that what we've got going on here is a bit of a W formation. We've gone through our rise, and we're right now in a bit of a flag, which is the retracement. And if this flag holds, especially if it holds above the 61.8, we may see the next move out to the upside. And if you see that, that is when you're going to go to step 2 of your charting process for altcoins. It doesn't mean automatic buy, it just means the first box is ticked. So keep an eye on this one especially. It's not great that we've created a lower high within the flag. I would have liked to see this move up for another touch to the top, then create a higher low. That would have given me more confidence that the altcoins are going to break out to the upside. We don't have it yet, so you have to know that whilst there's a lower high right there, this flag could fail and we could break down further. And if that happens, that's probably going to lead to another altcoin capitulation. But don't worry, because I'm going to show you how to prepare for that. Now, once you've analyzed those 3 charts, the next step is to go to the actual Bitcoin pairing of the thing that you want to buy. Now, you're not going to be buying it with your Bitcoin. You'll probably end up buying it with USDT. But the reason you want to chart it against Bitcoin, especially if you have limited cash, is because you want to make sure that anything else you're buying in this market is outperforming Bitcoin. Because if it's not, whilst this part of it might look bullish against USDT and you might make some profit, you are not actually outperforming Bitcoin if the Bitcoin pair chart is bearish, and therefore you have an opportunity loss. So if you have limited capital and you are wanting to make money in this cycle, you've got to be very smart about where you put that capital. And you need to not just be looking for things that are good, fundamentally good, chart-wise look good. You need to be looking for things that are outperforming the best asset right now, which is Bitcoin. And why is it the best? Because the dominance is showing us that that's where the interest is. So we're not going to look at Doge USDT first. We're going to look at Doge BTC. Now, when we have a look at this, same thing. We can see this pump through March. We see 100% retracement of that. We've seen a move up to the 200 EMA, almost again another 100% retracement of that. And this time on the second attempt, we have broken the 200 EMA. There are some really good targets above price for Doge because there is a lot of levels of resistance that it can go to. And what we're starting to see is a little bit of a market structure change. Now, when you see that, you still have to set your conditions, and you want to make sure that you're buying this thing at the cheapest price possible that still maintains that confirmed trend change. Don't ever think if you can't get it any cheaper, you should just buy or you're going to miss out. Remember, there are 2 million altcoins right now. And if something takes off before you are fully positioned in it, you will have other choices. Don't chase things, when they're up here in their high pump, thinking you're too late and you better just get in. Just look for the next opportunity. And I'm going to show you a good example of that a little bit later. So when we have a look at the current price action for Doge, there's a few things we can do to build up an idea of where to buy. Take Fibonacci from the most recent low to the most recent high, and we want to line the fib levels up with something else that adds confluence. Immediately at the 50 fib level, I can see the 200 EMA, and I can also see a green vector right here. In addition to that, if we were to come back to the 50 EMA, we would also come back here to the prior resistance. So that would be a really good area for price to break through, create the higher high, come back for a retracement, and now flip this prior resistance into support. And if it held around that area, never think of it as just a whole number, just think of it as a whole area, then that would be a good area to buy. So it's never an automatic buy if price comes back into a zone. What you're waiting for next is to make sure that bullish candlesticks start to form in that zone. And if they do, then you can take action. If the price remains bearish in that zone, then you're simply just moving down to the next vector that you can see on the initial push up. The first area of of interest is going to be around this vector candle here. So now when I look at this and I can see that the market structure is changing, I can draw the conclusion that Doge is making an attempt to become bullish against Bitcoin, and therefore I can start planning where to buy. So now I'm going to have a look at the USDT chart and see if I can find an area like this that matches up as a good buy zone. And I'm also going to use the liquidity from Hyblock. When I have a look at the Doge USDT chart, again, you can see we created this high here, a higher low and a higher high. So the charts look very similar, but I've got a lot more vector candles here that I can use as areas to buy. And I'm going to use the liquidity heat maps to help me decide which one of these vector candles should actually become my target. Now, when I have a look at this heat map here, I've run it on the 3-month look back period, and you can immediately see that the brightest yellow area is way down here, which is going to be a return to the support and will break that structure if that were to happen. So how do I analyze that? What does that mean for me? That means that I should still be prepared for an altcoin capitulation, which I am. I'm not fully positioned in altcoins because whilst Bitcoin is bullish and having this little bit of a pullback, with the dominance rising as Bitcoin is bullish, there is a very big chance that there is still an altcoin capitulation to come. And what this tells me is pick your area where you think the higher low might come, which will give you confirmation that your altcoin is bullish. Reassess when it gets there, but if you don't get your final confirmation, if you don't get those candlesticks in that zone becoming bullish and showing you that the buyers are stepping in, be prepared for lower prices. So I have to build 2 plans for that. So where would my higher low come in? I can see some kind of green areas here that sit around the 0.13 mark. And now I'm going to check where that lines up on my Doge chart. And 0.13 is around here. So again, it's going to be a retest of this prior resistance, similar to the Bitcoin chart. And this blue vector is the one that is in that zone. So this becomes my area of interest. And again, by the time price actually does retrace into there, the 200 EMA, which is my yellow EMA, that's going to come in like this. So if price were to trickle down like this, hold the 200 EMA, give me a bullish candlestick formation, that's going to end up being a higher low off the 200 EMA, and that will be bullish. And if I don't get that, if I continue to get weakness in this area of interest, sorry, my lights have just decided to have a disco there, then I'm going to prepare for that altcoin capitulation. And that would mean that the 0.09 to the 0.1 would become my next target to look to make a move. And that is essentially my whole process when I'm looking to invest in altcoins for the long term. So now I'm going to smash through the final 5 using that exact same method. And I'm going to show you how once you're used to it, you can get through really quite fast. And the next one I'm going to cover is SOLANA. And I want to cover SOLANA because I know it has a lot of attention. It has really good marketing. Everybody wants to be part of SOLANA, but it's had such a huge move lately that again, if you have limited capital and you need to be really careful about where you put that capital, is a coin that's already done such a huge multiple really the right choice for you? Or should you be looking for SOLANA killers or just something else that hasn't had such a big move yet? Now, sure, SOLANA's probably got a hell of a lot more upside left in it, but that still doesn't take away from the fact that it's already done so much. There's been so many times in this cycle that SOLANA has just done a solo run, whilst other altcoins aren't really doing much. SOLANA's done something like $154 to $165 in just a few days. And it seems to just be having these big surges every now and then, even if the rest of the market isn't doing too much. And one of the reasons that could have happened lately is because SOLANA's just activated transfers for its EU customers. And that means if you are in the EU and you're using Robinhood, you can now actually transfer SOLANA to earn a 1% bonus on your deposits. And I think you can do that until the end of November. And another reason could be that recently Van Eck, which is a major asset manager, they have enabled staking for SOLANA. So that means that investors can now lock up their SOLANA tokens and earn rewards, and that just gets reinvested automatically. And so things like that just bring out a lot of optimism for SOLANA, and that, continues to push it into the spotlight. And so you've got institutional funds pouring in, you've got all of these predictions that it's going to break $200 soon, and all of that stuff just brings in this upward momentum, which keeps SOLANA looking quite strong. But again, if you have limited capital, even though SOLANA might be a good investment, investment? Is it the right investment for you considering what it's already done so far? So let's go through the process with Solana. Looking at the Solana BTC chart all the way back to December 2023, we've essentially just been in a very wide range. It's pretty clear to see where the liquidity is that they don't really want to push price below, because we have this final vector here after this consolidation that made this move to the upside, and we have returned there once prior and we haven't returned there since. It's holding around the 200 EMA, but the 200 EMA is now basically flattened sideways because we've been consolidating for so long. But whilst holding that is bullish, we do also have these major pivots here where the second pivot at this point in time is a lower high, and there's potential for this one to become a third lower high. So there really is no major macro direction for Solana right now. And what we're looking for is the trend to actually change within this zone to give us a hint that it's going to break out of this high and then continue to the upside. Again, this is SOL BTC. So if it can do that, that's when it's telling you that SOL is outperforming Bitcoin and it's a worthwhile investment. When we zoom in on this current area, we can see that this here is starting to create a higher high in relation to this previous high right here. Good start. It's broken above the EMAs, but like I said, the EMAs are sideways. So if this is going to sustain itself and continue up, we actually want to see these EMAs start to move up and to the right. We want to see that happen because that shows us a trend is forming. Otherwise, we're doing nothing but a wide range consolidation. So there's a couple of things that would need to happen with SOL BTC. If this run here wants to keep going, let it go however long it takes. At some point, there will be a pullback, and we were waiting to make sure that that pullback now creates the higher low. And when it does, we want to make sure our EMAs are trending up as well. If you really wanted to buy Solana in this range at the prices that it's at, that's going to be your best bet right there, as you would expect that as long as it met all of those conditions, the next move will be an attempt at least back to the top of the range, potentially this resistance first and then to the top of the range. So that now allows you to go and set the level to buy on the USDT chart. And again, you can see they almost mirror each other. You've got the USDT charts vector here that has been returned to a couple of times. So that's showing you that that is where the liquidity is. You've got this spike into it right here and then another one right here. As long as they stay away from this zone and they don't break down below it, this could act as a good support. If we happen to have a big liquidation hunt, there's way too much leverage in the market and we get one of those flush outs. If we get that and it returns back into this zone, that's going to be your best area to buy, providing the candle ends up looking like this or this one here as well, where you have that big wick to the bottom showing orders picked up and bang, straight away filled, buyer's strength comes in, and hopefully we don't return to that area again. What you have to be aware of though is the more times we return to the zone, the weaker it gets. So we don't really want to return to this area of interest, A, at all, number one, or B, if we do return to it again, probably not more than a third time. When we have a look at the liquidity here, we can see why the price is currently moving up. We've got this yellow zone right here above price. They have just wicked into it, haven't taken it yet, but we may still be on the way to take that. And that takes us up to about $173. So we may continue up into that range before we get any type of a pullback. And if all goes well and we actually do get a pullback after that, then we'll be looking again around the daily 250 EMA in this zone here. That's going to be your best area to buy. And again, remember, it may not come that low. That's between about 141 to 148. So it may not come that low, but you got to set your standard. You're going to chase the price when you have limited capital, or you're going to set your condition and say, I'm interested if it comes here. And if it doesn't, I'm going to go park my money elsewhere. That's how I personally operate. I don't care if I miss out on a coin, even if I really love that coin. I just missed it. I have other choices. Now, the warning is, again, look how large and yellow the liquidity is below price. Again, remembering we're in a bull market, so of course liquidity is going to build below price because people are bullish and they're buying, and therefore their liquidations are below price and usually below support and things like that, which is what we have here. So eventually, if we do break out into a full-on alt season, they won't ever come for that. So that will remain there. And most likely that liquidity right there that has been built from the people who are currently bullish will probably take profit before price returns there. So you're only going to care about these lower levels of liquidity, which are at about 132 and 124. You're really only going to care about those if there is weakness in the original area of interest between 141 to 148. Using liquidity to trade and to know where to set your areas of interest, your targets, your stop losses, things like that. Like there's no better way to trade than understanding where the liquidity is. And that all comes from Hyblock. This is something that I'm looking at every day for anything that I personally want to buy. If you're interested in getting a Hyblock subscription, there is a link in the description of this video and it gets you 15% off their membership. So be sure to check that out. All right. So what if you have just listened to everything I said and said, you know what, Annie, you're right. I really like Solana. I really do want to buy it, but you've just shown me that it may not be the best opportunity for me with my limited fund. What else should I be looking at? You should be looking for the thing that is threatening to be the next Solana, and that is Aptos. So why Aptos? Because Aptos is changing the game for the world of cryptocurrency by making blockchains faster and more secure. Their secret is that they have this special technology called Move, and Move is a programming language built to boost security and efficiency. That means faster transactions and a smoother blockchain experience. Just a bit of a side note, when I was in Paris recently for the Olympics, Bitget flew me out there, and they also flew out the founder of Aptos, Mo, and so I met him for the first time, and there was a whole bunch of other people there at dinner as well, and he actually showed us their wallet. We downloaded it and we did a transaction. He showed us how fast it worked, and it was very, very impressive. And after speaking to him, his history, his relationship with Facebook and the cryptocurrency they were creating at the time, Libra, I just really believed in the founder. I just was really impressed by him. And it was at that trip that I decided I was going to invest in Aptos as well. And I came straight home from that trip and I told the TTC community, I'm in this one, I'm investing in a person, which is not usually something that I do, but I was extremely impressed. And so far that has definitely paid off for me. So Aptos is getting a lot of news lately because it's just flipped 𝗟𝗶𝗃, and so now all of the attention is coming to Aptos, and that is the example of what I was telling you before. If something has already moved so much, instead of trying to chase that price, look for the best thing that might be that thing's killer. You know, whilst everybody was looking this way at 𝗟𝗏, we at TTC were looking this way at Aptos, and now we're sitting very pretty. I mean, just have a look at that Aptos BTC chart. It's really like, you can see a beautiful curve here, a turnaround and a change in trend, and that's happening because in October, Aptos total value locked hit an all-time high of 920 million. And in addition to that, they celebrated their 2-year anniversary in October, achieving a mind-blowing 1.7 billion total transactions and 27.7 million active addresses. Not to mention the network processed an insane 326 million transactions in just one day. Like, that is adoption on the rise, right? So when we have a look at this chart here, like I said, beautiful curve. I like to see something like that. We're starting to break EMAs. We're seeing volume come through. We have hit a little bit of a resistance here, but that is to be expected because we're returning to this unrecovered vector right here. Now, once we break through this large one through here, there is another one up above. And so the key here is to get through those, but we wanted to get through it by creating a nice trend. So we don't want it to go straight up. That's when we worry. We actually wouldn't mind a bit of a pullback back to the EMAs, back to even potentially the, I mean, that's going to be a lucky buy if we come back that low, especially with all of its bullish news. We may not get that. In order for us to get back down to this area for some really cheap buys, again, we really have to have some kind of massive liquidation event. Altcoins overall just have to just do badly for a while, and then you can get a good buy in that zone. Otherwise, you'll be aiming around these EMA retests, and again, you get bullish confirmations in there. You would expect that it's going to hold that level and then make its attempt to eventually get through its next vector here. And so that allows us to then have a look at the Aptos USDT chart. And again, look at that. We've got beautiful liquidity here around that 250 EMA right here. Now, it won't be there. We'll end up being lower than it if we were to return to it because those EMAs are trending up really quite nicely. But I would expect if we were lucky enough to come down this low, it probably will hold down. Unless, of course, the market is no longer bullish, and there's something really bad has happened and the cycle is over. But that would be a really good area of interest for me, between about $7.50 to $7.80. But that is absolute best case scenario. So the more likely case is probably this zone here initially. This is what we need to look out for, and that's about $9 to $9.60. If we didn't hold that area of support and we continued to have weakness there, then the next area is going to be here between $7.80 to $8.30. Maybe a stop hunt into the lower zone at like $7.50 again, if we're very, very lucky. So I'll be looking at those two zones for Aptos. Now, if you're into AI, then you probably already know about 𝗟𝗏, and if you don't know about 𝗟𝗏, then yes, 𝗟𝗏 should be on your radar. So what 𝗟𝗏 is doing is they are merging AI and blockchain to create like a decentralized marketplace for machine learning, which in English, that translates to where AI developers can collaborate and share resources. Now, recently, 𝗟𝗏 saw a 1,000% surge in its token price. So again, if you have limited capital, is it the best place to put your money? We'll have a look at the chart and decide, because there could still be a hell of a lot more coming for 𝗟𝗏, especially because it just became compatible with Ethereum. And that means that developers can now use Ethereum-based smart contracts with 𝗟𝗏, which allows for the combining worlds of AI and DeFi. So even with that 1,000% surge, 𝗟𝗏's got a lot going on, and it's got more upgrades coming, like dynamic 𝗟𝗏. AI, of course, is hot. This chart is hot, which we'll go through. And I still think 𝗟𝗏 is one worth keeping an eye on, because it pushes both AI and crypto into new territories. Having a look at 𝗟𝗶𝗃𝗵. Again, beautiful chart. Nice rounded curve here on the daily chart. We've broken through EMAs. We've made a higher high here. We're coming back to retest. Now it's retesting the 50 EMA. Is that the best we're going to get of a pullback? It really depends on that Bitcoin dominance and the others dominance that I showed you earlier, because we do have a vector candle right here too. So it may not want to recover more than this, and that might end up being the best that we get, somewhere around the 50 EMA on the daily. If we happen to push lower than that, we don't have any more vectors here on the Bitcoin chart, but I wouldn't worry too much about that. I would just keep an eye on this whole area here, looking for a higher low, and you might even be able to get that at a fib level, somewhere between the 50 and the 61.8. But this is showing me it's worth now having a look at the USDT chart and the liquidity. Now you can see here instantly how that liquidity really does just paint such a picture for where the right place to buy might be. There just isn't better confluence than this. Like, honestly, I cannot think of a better strategy than this. This is super bright yellow around here, which is just above the daily 50 EMA, probably in the middle of this vector candle right here. It's just a great zone. And so when I said to you on the Bitcoin chart, like we just may not get lower than that vector, that's going to line up with this area right here. It is a huge amount of liquidity. And with 𝗟𝗏 being so bullish, we can't really bank on a super large pullback. So for me, I would definitely be keeping an eye on this area, which is about 508 to say 525. If we break below it, we're going to have to reassess the liquidity to decide the best place to buy. But at this point in time, my next area of interest would probably be this area right here at about 427 to 443. But really, we got to see what happens in this zone first. Before I move on to the next altcoin, if you're looking for somewhere to trade and you want to be a whale, you need to know that BloFin is where the whales are made. BloFin is one of our channel partners, and you can buy crypto, you can trade spot, and you can also trade futures, with BloFin being available in many parts of the world. This is a great exchange to trade on, and if you use the link in the description of this video, we actually have a deposit and trade reward bonus going on of up to $10,000 worth of futures bonuses. Depending on how much you deposit, your bonus will be higher and higher. In addition to that, if you use the specific link in the description of this video, you get a 20% fee rebate on all of your trades for the rest of your life. So be sure to check out BloFin, link in the description of this video. Now, speaking about coins that have had massive runs that you may have missed out on and having to use limited capital in the best place possible, the next coin I'm going to show you is a really beautiful chart that is the perfect example of something that you should be looking for when you want that really big opportunity before everyone's talking about it. And I, of course, am talking about TIA. Celestia. Now, Celestia is doing something quite unique by rethinking how blockchains work. Instead of handling everything in one place, Celestia separates key tasks, making it scalable and flexible. And so this modular design is attracting a lot of attention from developers who want to build their own blockchains without the usual overhead. But there's a big event coming up for Celestia around October 30, I think it is. And I think that this event might be the reason why the chart is looking the way it is. But just remember, the chart tells you the story and it shows you where the opportunity is. Now, that big event that I'm talking about is the date that 82% of Celestia's circulating supply will be unlocked. So a lot of people think that that's going to create intense selling pressure and it's going to cause volatility in the market. And I think everybody's sitting still on Celestia, just waiting for that date. However, with all of that aside, Celestia continues to attract investment with, I think, around 155 million raised so far. And they continue to have developers building on their platform. So what do you do in a situation like this? You can use the liquidity charts to give you a target for, well, if there is this big volatility to the downside when these tokens get unlocked, what area can I be looking to buy this thing at the cheapest price possible? And if it doesn't happen, we're still looking for areas that might create breakouts or higher lows that give us good areas to buy. So let's have a look at 𝗖𝗵𝗃𝗃. And this is the chart here that I was saying, it's just a delicious looking chart when you're looking for an opportunity to buy for the long term. This is December 2023 area, early 2024. We had this big move up and we've had this big downtrend back to fully rebalance pretty much down here. And we've been consolidating in this range since around July. This is how I like to see my charts when I'm considering investing in something. And what I then start to look for in this consolidation range is a hint that it's going to break out soon. And the hint comes from higher highs and higher lows that start to form within the range. That's my first hint. And then the second one is when it breaks out of the range. So I can see at this point in time, we've got a higher low here in comparison to this, but that's not bullish yet because we've got a high here and a lower high here, right? So it's just consolidation. It's not bullish. It's not bearish. We need to see some evidence that this low right here is the low, the last low we're going to get before breakout. So we want to see some buying volume come in next. And we want to see some strength to push through here, give us some green vectors and some really nice bullish engulfing candle closes, break out, change the structure with a higher low. This is going to be the area to buy. So it doesn't matter what that actual number is. What matters is the shape that the candlesticks form. Again, knowing this, what I conclude is it's not the time to buy it right now, but it is a very good time to keep an eye on it and start looking for something like this to play out. If it does, that's when you can take action. Now, looking at the liquidity on TRUSDT, you can see here, if the market remains bullish, we may actually get a higher high on TIA soon. Because we've broken this 50 EMA, currently we're holding it as support. We may make a run up to the 200 EMA because look, we can see that there is liquidity there. So I have this low here. I have this equal high here. It didn't actually create a higher high. It's actually technically a lower high in comparison to this region right here. And this is a W formation or a double bottom that's created a higher low. So that's okay. Holding the 50 EMA is okay. But really what I want to see happen on this, and I'm not taking action, but I want to see it move up, take this liquidity, come back and maintain structure. Give me another higher low after that. And then as long as it holds that higher low, that's the time to get involved. So I want to see it come up, take this, come back, higher low, get involved there. If there's weakness at that higher low or it just can't hold a higher low, then again, know that we've got this liquidity down here. And this might be where we return to when those tokens unlock. That's between about 320 to 480. Now, I don't think we can talk about Aptos without talking about 𝗬𝗍, because 𝗬𝗍 was the talk of the town for the last month or so, went on a massive run. Like I said, everyone's eyes were over here looking at 𝗬𝗍, but the best opportunity at the time was actually in Aptos. And we are seeing the returns of that now for those who got involved back then. But let's talk about 𝗬𝗍. 𝗬𝗍's got a lot of attention because it recently created its all-time high at, I think it was $2.35. And that brought in a lot of attention. Of course, brought in the FOMO. People who didn't buy started buying. And all the talk of massive price targets started coming out for 𝗬𝗍. Now, 𝗬𝗍 recently has made some pretty major moves. That's why it's getting so much attention. One of the things that it's done is it's actually opened its first global 𝗬𝗍 hub right here in Dubai. Now, the hub is designed to support blockchain startups with things like funding and resources and technical expertise and that sort of thing. And 𝗬𝗍 gets compared against Aptos a lot because they both use the same Move programming language. And of course, Move makes 𝗬𝗍 super fast and efficient. Now, speaking of growth, 𝗬𝗍's total value locked has skyrocketed by 260% since August, which shows growth and trust in the ecosystem. So having a look at 𝗬𝗍 BTC, immediately it stands out that we've created a double top. We've got this high from February. We returned to it only recently in October, and we're having a bit of a pullback. That's to be expected. Nothing to worry about as long as it maintains structure. This could still potentially be a buy. Now, this area here stands out because in this whole run up, that is where the vector candles are. So that's where the most volume came in. And it is quite a big range, but we'll try to get it lower using the USDT chart in a second. But this is the main area of interest and looks like we're starting to return there now. So I would keep an eye out on the 50 EMA, worst case 200 EMA. If you get your bullish confirmations around there, it could be a good spot to buy, expecting that it will retrace into this zone, create again higher low. Again, we would expect then a breakout eventually of the current double top. When you have a look at 𝗬𝗍 USDT, it actually created a higher high. Fantastic. Again, look at this large yellow area of liquidity right here lines up around the area that I just showed you on the Bitcoin chart. Still a big area. I would mark out this whole area here for my area of interest, and that's between about 136 to 160. And if we want some extra confluence, we can also add the fibs to it and see that that will take us into around the 38 to 50 level fib. I really do like this area. It's around the EMAs, it's around the vector candles, it's in good fib level retest zones. Again, let the price come to you. If it comes into this zone and it gives you the confirmation the buyers are stepping in that zone, it's going to be a good area to buy. Don't chase the price, let it come to you. So remember, if you have a limited resources and you are trying to make the most out of this cycle, you need to understand dominance and you need to understand where the money is shifting before you commit your money. You then need to make sure that the thing that you want to buy is actually outperforming Bitcoin. Have a look at that first. And finally, to set your targets and your areas that you're willing to commit your money, you need to understand the liquidity. If you want to learn more about how we trade and invest at TTC, we do have full courses and you are welcome to come and join us in our very active community. There is a link to all of the details on how to get a Trade Trouble Chill membership in the description of this video.